How's it going, Star Seekers? My name's Luke and welcome back to Star Wars Shovelware, where today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Work Trip. Now you may recall that sometime last year I reviewed a game called Hike. No, not a short hike, which is a wonderful little indie adventure game, just Hike, which was a kind of walking simulator void of anything wonderful. Work Trip is from the same developer, but it was actually released before Hike, so if you've seen the previous review, you might have an inkling of what to expect from this one. Now as before, I'm not going to be rolling with my standard review format for this one, and instead I'm going to be condensing my entire experience with the game into about a 5-minute summary, which will undoubtedly spoil the whole game for you, but it'll also save you about a $5 in the process. With that said, be a star and hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you see and want to see more, and let's get right on into it. So as the game opens, we get a short introduction explaining that a tree fell on our car, destroying it, not just broke it, destroyed it. And so instead of calling the AA like any sane person would do, we instead trot off into the wilderness to seek help. As luck would have it though, the first individual that we come across is this 5-head RuneScape NPC called Tim, who just so happens to have a brother called Tom, who knows a guy who has the parts needed to get our wheels back on the road. Unfortunately though, Tom happens to be a complete wanker, and he ain't giving up any of the information for free, so first we gotta help him recover his chickens, which have somehow managed to escape again, and so off we pop to hunt down said poultry, which are essentially featureless chicken shaped statues. Now don't expect a challenge with this one, as none of them are very well hidden, you don't actually need to physically return them, and the only one that takes any effort whatsoever to reach is hiding within a hedge maze of sorts, though it basically consists of about 3 rows of trees and only 3 or 4 possible routes through them. After recovering all of the chickens and returning them to Tom, we're then directed to speak to his sister, Friday, a wide-eyed beaut of a woman with a 1,000-mile stare who looks like she's taken far too much of something she shouldn't have. Now if Friday here was in the running to win Parent of the Year award, then she's just gone ahead and shit it, because just like Beardy Baldy, she's also gone and lost one of her valuable possessions, namely her son, who has wandered off and gotten himself lost in the snow forest. Situated a stone's throw away from this arid desert area, this winter wonderland is like some kind of really shit Narnia, and I decided to take some time out to take a look around and see if I could find any of these sweet features that the game's eShop description mentioned. Aside from a bunch of little people's homes and a single massive chair though, I couldn't actually find anything of interest, not a sausage, and I eventually managed to track down this little prick who was hiding behind a broken fence and sent him on his way home. For my efforts, Crack Mama was kind enough to open the door to a basement for me, where I would finally be able to meet her father, the dude who has the spare parts to repair my motor. So after spending some time searching the local area for said basement, I eventually came across this hole in the wall which was previously covered by a door, and this indeed turned out to be the basement, which sort of made sense in a twisted kind of way since it had a building sunk into the ground above it. Now up until this point I'd had a growing list of questions on my mind, such as how did a medieval citadel full of Viking longhouses come to be, where had all the little people gone and who owned the massive chair, and why had Friday locked her old pops up in the basement. However, any hope of actually having these questions answered went right out of the fucking window as I entered the basement and encountered whatever this insanity is supposed to be. Now I don't know if the intent here was to create some kind of fractured alternative reality in which gravity had taken its leave and the trees now roamed free, but nothing is ever mentioned about it, and to me it just looks like the developer got a bit excited and went a bit apeshit with a copy and paste tool. Anyway, back to the story. Following the directions on a nearby sign, I went to seek out Friday's old man, a farmer who apparently lived here. Besides the giant mushrooms which went some way to explaining why Friday was so off her tits, there really wasn't much to see here, and upon meeting the farmer, who also happened to be a bearded bastard who had replaced his feet with the hooves of a tiny horse, I was then sent on my final search and recovery mission where I had to find a bunch of sheep, 6 of them to be precise. Now this epic final quest turned out to be about as challenging as the previous 2 tasks, and upon returning to the farmer he told me that my destroyed car was now up and running again and that I could take the shortcut back to it, but first I had one final wander in search of the secrets and achievements also mentioned in the eShop description. Needless to say, I found nothing of interest beside a single wolf hiding behind a giant mushroom, and after making my way back through the shortcut, which had a pretty little pond but was also absent of any secrets, I wound up back at my car, bid farewell to the two Baldy brothers Tim and Tom, and hopped back into my motor for the final fade to black. And that was it. That's the game in its entirety, though you really would be pushing it if you labelled Work Trip as a game. It's more like the developer's first attempt at creating something in Unity, which it undoubtedly was, so don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the work here, but as is the case with the guy's other game, Hike, I just think it's a tad bit cheeky to brand it a game and charge people for a bare bones walking experience which from start to end lasts all of 15 minutes. I also think that tightening up the eShop description and spouting a load of bollocks embellishing the game's content is wrong. The game is easy, I'll give you that, but fun, not really. Relaxing, debatable, but there are no sweet features to keep you busy, there are no secrets and achievements unless you count the big chair and the wolf, and while they aren't necessarily game-breaking bugs, there are still plenty of objects without collision. Anyway, with all that said, I really can't recommend buying Work Trip if you're actually looking for a game to play, but if you're wanting to support an indie dev, then feel free to drop the guy a few quid for it. And that just about wraps up this kind of review of Work Trip on the Nintendo Switch. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below, and if you want to stay up to date with my latest reviews and content, then consider subscribing to the channel. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.